All right, everybody. We are back again for another episode of the Coach's Compass. Now, yes, it's season 6. Still don't know what episode it is. Continue to record, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. Now, remember, hit that like, subscribe, comment button down below so you continue to grow, continue to have on cool guests from all over the world. I've got another special guest with me here today. I've got Coach Manny. He's a strength and conditioning coach from Portugal, now living in Scotland, running Primitive Athlete and the host of PA Chalk Up Podcast. Coach, thank you and welcome to the Coach's Compass today.
Appreciate you. Again, apologies for the first time round. It's
It's
completely
all
on
right.
me.
Second time is a charm. I heard that's what they say.
To be fair, they're usually better. I will second this.
And you have some time to practice. Now you know what some of the questions are. But Coach, let's run this thing back because we talked about it a little bit the first time we were on. But if you think back to when you first got into this, right? You first started coaching and you were trying to chase all these certifications and all this different type of stuff. What is something back then that you were chasing then that does not matter to you at all now?
So again, I've never been big on I'll not say that. But I've always chased experience over a piece of paper. And I think as I've sort of went through this industry, yes, we need our certifications. Yes, we need our accreditations. We need that basic knowledge, understanding of what we do and how we can manipulate things to better people's performance. So I've always been more hands-on than anything else. I think the one thing that I was chasing back then that I'm not now is essentially not making my word be the last word. So I've spent what am I on? I'm on 15 years of being in this industry. I don't know everything. I'm not I'll put it out there, I'm not the best coach, but I do my best every time I've got an athlete in front of me. And I think the intent behind how you coach is more important than any degree, than any accreditation that you can go out there. Like you can have all that, but be a terrible practical coach. So I think it's conversations. I think I'm chasing now more conversations than I am reading research papers.
How hard was it though to kind of drop the ego and the pride of saying like, oh, I know the best. Like I know what's going to work for this athlete. I know what's going to work for this team the best. And kind of like you said, like, hey, like I'm still learning. I'm continuing to learn each and every day. And I might not be the best, but I'm going to figure out how to get this answer. Like sometimes it's tricky in this industry, right? Like on a very ego driven industry, even though we all get into this because we say we want to help the athlete become a better person, right? Or become a better athlete. That's tricky to drop that and say. So how did you learn that?
So I will give credit where credit is due. I've spoken to a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am, and I have zero issue thinking. And it can be quite humbling and daunting to I have conversations with Paul Comfort, Tim Schumacher often, and I'm able to hang in there. So I know I'm not absolutely useless, but they've spearheaded most of this research. I speak to Mike Stone quite a lot, like pioneer, and for me, it's always like so. There's this great quote: "Is listen more than you talk," and it's that simple thing of just like actually, let's just shut up and see what they have to say, and then see if I understand it first of all, and then I can contribute something to it. And I think that's where that ego drop was. And plus, I've been roasted on programs before, so which I think is very important. Like
Right. Yes.
as a young coach, get other coaches' opinions on your program. Like that is the best way to learn how to program. Make mistakes, fuck up. That's how good programs are then made.
100%. Because I mean, how how else do you continue to learn, right? Like, how would you know if your program is actually a good program or not? And that's not to say that their opinion is going to make it a worse program or a better program, right? Because they're just trying to get somebody's outside perspective on it. But with people that have had a little bit more time in the industry, history kind of repeats itself, right? Like, you can kind of tell, like, hey, like, you might be leading down the wrong direction with that. But you didn't know, you just dropped some names in there. Right, you just dropped some big guys that you've been learning from. So, who are some people that you continue to learn from, and people that continue to hold you accountable to becoming a better coach?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because I will say I'm very fortunate on who I speak to, and I know that these connections have all attributed to what I do now, and I can't ever say that it's come easy because like you'll know yourself, like you can reach out to coaches and you just get airballed, and like I've had a lot of that. Like when I started my podcast, like I was messaging people who I thought were friends of me and friends of what I was doing, and I just got ghosted. So
Left on red, brother.
yeah, all legit. But then it's kind of like the thing, and again it goes back to that ego thing. I think when you're trying to do something, I have this saying, shy boys don't get sweets, right? So the best thing you can do is just have a go at it. Like reach out to them, see if they're interested, see what their view is on things. Like most of the like I've spoken to a lot more coaches now that I've never recorded anything with. And that's fine. Like they at least know who I am and we can exchange messages and emails. But I think it kind of goes back to that thing of like just be a human and things tend to start happening. Again, very fortunate. Like I've got some great coaches behind me. Like I always have to tip my hat to Coach Ron McEffrey. He was my mentor when I was at UW, and he's essentially the reason I started my podcast, and I attribute a lot of my success to him. But yeah, it was just him being like, "You're across seas. There's nothing much happening across there. Just build something, do something." So like for me, it was just that. It was like again, I'm never too shy to send someone a message. If they don't reply, it says more about them than it does me. So
Love that. But you talk about starting this podcast, right? Same shoes as you, right? Understanding that, hey, like you got to send out a lot of DMs. A lot of people are just going to read it, leave you on red. A lot of people are going to be like, like, what are the numbers that you get? How many people listen to your stuff? Like, what is it? What do I get out of this? How was it to, start the podcast? And what was your purpose behind starting it? Like, what is PA Chalk Up and why?
so it's interesting. So Coach Mac knew I was going back to the UK. The UK S&C wise is sports science. It's not necessarily S&C. Within S&C, you could also take the role on of a physio, of a nutritionist, of like there's multiple encompasses within the S&C role. So he kind of knew that I was coming back to an area where S&C wasn't all that big. So essentially, his message was like you can kind of do whatever you want. So like, just start blazing your own pathway. Like, I know you know your shit. You can coach. So let's just go through what you want and do what you want. And I think having the confidence of Coach Mark being like, just do whatever the fuck you want. You're good. And it gave me the confidence. Okay, if he believes in me, surely I can believe in myself to do this. So it did take me a year to do this podcast to start it. But then I think what a lot of people miss is that big swing out of the gate, which is fine. It's fine to do that. But so I started with interns, my friends who I was interning with. So like the first 10 podcasts were just friends. I was just having a conversation with friends but recording it. Right. So there's no real pressure to be like, oh, this has to be a hit episode.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of changed the way I looked at it. I was like, okay, this is just conversations, but I'm just lucky enough that I get to record them. So it just started that way. It was just like I was just having conversation with friends. There was some questions at the start. Like I started the first 25 episodes, I had like a question sheet, but then after that I was just like, nah, I don't like this. I'm focusing too much on the questions as opposed to the conversations. So let me just not write questions. Let me just talk to them. And here we are.
Here we are, man. Because that can be a little bit tricky and a little bit scary for a lot of coaches, like you said yourself. Like you had to get somebody else to tell you, like, hey, man, just go do it, right? Like I believe you can do it. Like you're a good enough coach, you can go out there and talk to people and get the information. A lot of coaches nowadays, right, is changing, right? The pendulum is swinging back to where a lot of coaches are willing to get out there and speak about what they're doing and what they're programming and whatnot, but even the journey of a coach. How has it been for you to get coaches to come on and actually, speak their truths? Because I think that's the hidden part about the industry. Because obviously, I'm here in America, so I understand and I know a little bit. Like even because I lived in the UK, I lived in Europe for 8 years. Like the difference in coaching is just a little bit different. There's a little more security over there, I would say, with jobs. Whereas over here, you say something wrong and you're gone. So how hard is it to get coaches to kind of get on and speak their truth?
You might hate me for saying this, but for me personally, it's not that hard because like I also put no pressure. So a little behind the scenes, I will always check with the coaches if there's things they can or can't say, if there's NDAs, if there's so like I've spoken to a lot of military guys. I've spoken to a lot of NFL coaches, and there's usually red tape that they have to tick off or get permissions from to be able to come on. So for me is the important part is they have to be comfortable to talk about what they can. So if I know some boundaries, I'm not touching it like anywhere near them. Whether people want to or not, I'm not going to. I'm not so even like the experience, I think if you come on my podcast, I want you to feel relaxed. I want us to just shoot the shit. So I'm never going to touch any touchy subjects to make you want to back up. Because then again, like that kind of goes into their viewers, if like their followers. So if I have them on and I have a good conversation with them, but I push them a little bit harder than I should have, and the coach is out to them, is like, hey, I've been asked to do this podcast. What's your thoughts? It was like, it was a good conversation up until this point. And then they're kind of like, okay, then I'm not doing that.
Right.
So, so for me, yeah, it's I'll always ask if there's anything they can and can't say. If not, then we just go wild.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think this is kind of one of those interesting aspects I always wanted to kind of know because you also do a podcast now that you're talking to coaches from America and you're also talking to coaches that are in the European side of things. What do you think is some of the biggest differences in the SNC world between America compared to like Europe? Because obviously, like for me, like I know coming from America and then going overseas to play, like just even the differences in like the styles of the gyms, right? Like some of the times, like when I was over there playing, like we're in just a normal general population gym. I didn't really see many, not like team specific gyms over there, right? Like or like sometimes if you went to like you had like a what they considered an S&C coach, it was really just somebody that was a personal trainer, right? That maybe played the sport or played some type of sport before. And then, so what are some of the differences that you've kind of seen?
So it's actually funny. I've just had this conversation today with a coach. I'll not say this name yet, but we were essentially talking about the differences. And European coaching, like I touched on at the beginning, is very science heavy. Like metrics and data is what we base our programs off. We're not looking at like we're not specifically looking at individual athletes. We're looking at everything data wise. Whereas in the US, you're coaching more. It's more culture. It's more okay. How can I squeeze this 1% out of this specific athlete? How can I tweak this thing to get the most out of the team? So I think yeah, the there's kind of two parts to this as well. So there's the science and the coaching between Europe and the US, and then there's also the funding, which is something that not a lot of people realize. In the US, although there's probably a million and one different school programs from elementary all the way to professional. There's donors, there's boosters, there's alumni, there's, I mean, you name it. Any way that they can get funded, fundraising, any way that they can get money, they'll get money that way. Which is, and I always grudge saying this, but that's what makes American sports so good.
We love our sports. We gonna put some money into 'em.
Hard, hard. Whereas European-based sports is government funded. So, in the plainest way possible, if you don't do well in the Olympics, you're kind of screwed. Or like world tournaments, you're kind of screwed. So I think there's those two differences, and I mean, you can't really get over them. But it's yeah, that's the two biggest differences I found is we're very science heavy, yous are very coach heavy. You have a lot of funding from different avenues. We get government funded, and that's where things really go from there. Yeah.
I think this is another tricky one. Which one do you think's better?
Okay,
Or
so
is
I
there a better?
I am a product of both. I've like if you get me on a spreadsheet, I'll show you what's up. But if you get me on the gym floor, I'm good. I'll take you into the room, and I'm not being big headed. I kind of am, but I'm not. But
Yeah.
it's I'm because I've had those both experiences at high level. I can sort of tap in and see what is needed for that time. And I think that's one thing that I was taught across there is like I love this example. So I was speaking to some sports psychologists and we were talking about how people may come into a weight room, right? So if you've had a hard night, if you've fought with your family or partner or whatever, you're coming into that gym drained. You've probably not slept, you've probably not drank, ate anything. So as S&C coaches or sports performance, we kind of need to look at that experience as like, you know, those dim switches that you get in rooms. So like, see how they're coming in. Match your energy to match theirs. If they're coming in low, it's like, hey, what's up? What's wrong today? You coming in low, and then during that session, you're cranking that dial up to make them bright, to make them shine, to make them pop. Whereas if they're coming in too hot, on the other hand, you're trying to be like, oh, let's
And
dim
let's
this up.
dial it back a little bit, right? Like we gotta save some energy for this whole thing.
Exactly. So it's that's an example I often use now. It's like, okay, I go through three questions when my athletes come in the door. How are you? Have you ate and drank? How did you sleep? That tells me a lot. I'll give them a little fist
We
bump. If
find
I
out
get
a whole bunch with those 3 questions.
100%, if especially if you add in a little fist bump with them, the amount of energy that comes back onto that, you can tell a lot too. So it's yeah, that's I miss a lot of that.
Coach, if we look, 10, 15 years from now, down the line in your coaching career, what do you hope your athletes come back and say about you? Not just like who you coached, but how Coach Manny coached.
That's a good question. I think for me is probably the impact out with the weight room. Are you still active? Are you still able to move the way that you want to? Have I extended your playing time? Instead of retiring at 30, you retired at 35. It's a small difference, but it means a lot. That's 5 extra years of pay. Like, it's I think it's those changes, like, have I impacted you more in a societal manner than how fast you ran, if that makes sense?
Makes 100% sense. I mean, that's a tricky one. Like it's always like you want to look at the numbers. How much did I make them, you
Mm,
know, bigger, faster, stronger? But at the end, like 10 to 15 years from now, like you just hope that these guys just like invite you to their weddings, right? They are telling you about the kids that they just had, start the family that they're starting, the trips that they went on, or they're just coming back in town and they just want to work out with you. Now, last thing before we get out of here, Coach, you got 10 seconds to motivate a room. What you saying to everybody?
So I can go two ways on this. It depends on who I have and
The
how
dial's
much.
low right now. I want you to start with the one with the dial low, and then I want you to come in with the one that's got extra juice, right? He's juiced up in the weight room.
So when they're starting low, I think the most important thing is to make them understand their capabilities. So it's like, you're here for a fucking reason. Like, you got to this stage. Are we just going to shy away and be fucking sad and depressed? Fuck no. So let's go back, fucking hit that rack, hit that weight, and let's go. Like, this is your time. And then if the dial's high, I might push them a little bit more.
Coach said, "Yeah, I'm jumping in with them."
So one that I love, and again, trust has to be built with athletes first. But I'm a big fan of being like, is that it? Is that all you
Yeah.
have? So I've lived in Scotland most of my life, and we have a little twisty, dark sense of humor. One I like, and I have done this with professional athletes. And you do get like a, oh, what the fuck? So I like to go, is that it? Is that all you have? My grandma could do that, and she's dead. So it's like, it's that little twist at the end. They're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, the little push of the button, and you know it's gonna turn them up.
Yeah,
No, that's awesome, Coach. Hey, man, I love having another coach, but also another person that runs a podcast, right? Come
mhm.
on and speak what it's like to be on this side of things, and not only just talk about X's and O's, but talk about how you got to where you got at and who you're continuing to learn from. So, Coach, I want to say thank you, man, so much for your time today. I know it was our second time shooting,
Yeah.
but this one was
I
even
will
more fun than
say,
the first time.
I don't know if you can, if anything from that last episode was saved, but I started thinking about something that you said, and I was like, I was given a lot of responsibility early on in my career. Because, like, I was 14, I had the keys to the
Yep.
gym, and I could just go in whenever I wanted. I think if you ever want to have me back, I would love to dive into that a little bit more, and just
Oh yeah, for sure.
because that, again, you made me think of like, sure, like, I've been doing this for a long
You
time.
when you said 14, 15 years old, had the own keys to the gym, I said, oh boy, I think about my 14, 15-year-old self. You gave me the keys to the gym, Coach, we might not even be doing that much lifting. We might be in there partying.
So I've never been big partying, but yeah, like it was insane how, yeah, after school I would just go to the gym and just hit hit iron, just bicep curls the whole time.
Just being a true bro in there. Yeah, Coach, we're definitely gonna run it back on that one because I know we had some things that we talked about in the last episode that I wanted to that we'll retouch on another later episode that we got more time.
I'm down for that.
Love it, baby. And we're out.
Peace.